Welcome to Monday live stream. Today we are going to talk about creating functional and beautiful altars. Both of those things can be really important, and I'm going to tell you why. So I just want to wait another minute. I know I'm a couple minutes late coming on. I was dealing with Amazon customer service, like probably a lot of us are. I don't know if anybody else's house looks like Christmas just threw up all over the place. Since I'm the one that buys all the gifts, everything behind me, I mean, you can see that, but you can't see the giant mess that is behind my chair of boxes and gifts and gift wrap and ribbons and tissue paper. It's pretty, when you're the one that has to do all the Christmas, that's kind of what happens. So I want to start off by talking about different types of altars. We hear about altars pretty early in our witchy education. It's one of the first things that people talk about, I feel. You need to make an altar, and these are the things that your altar should have on it. But there are like some different types of altars, and it's all about functionality, because the most important thing about your altar is that it works for you. And what I mean by when I say like works for you, I mean that you're actually going to use it. A lot of us just like put up an altar and it just sits there and looks pretty across the room, which is really great, because even that itself has a function. When we look at our altar across the room and it's pretty, and we have all these like important objects, objects that are sacred to us on our altar, it makes us want to use the altar. It reminds us of our spirituality, and it's just a really good reminder. Hi, Susan. So when we create an altar, the first thing we want to do is we kind of want to think about why we need an altar. So do you want to have an altar because you want to honor a specific goddess? Do you want to have an altar so that you can do witchcraft at it, or ritual, or, maybe you want to sit and meditate at your altar or do readings at your altar? So the first thing, when you're creating an altar, the first thing that you want to think about is what exactly you're going to use that altar for. Because if you're just like putting things on an altar because it's pretty and you're called to it, that's fine, but it might just sit there and you might not feel like you want to actually use it. So the first thing to think about is what function, why am I going to put together this altar? That's the first question you need to ask yourself. And then once you realize what you want to use your altar for, then you really have the time. That's like really when you want to start thinking about what you want to put on your altar. For example, behind me, you'll probably get to see my giant mess. But behind me over here, this is my Aphrodite shrine. So I have an Aphrodite shrine, and I have like my regular altar, my working altar. That's why it's kind of a mess. I need to clean it up a little bit. So I've got two different altars, and they serve two very different functions. So my devotional altar has my giant Aphrodite statue on it. It does not look giant, but it's like 2 feet tall, 20 inches tall, something like that. And it also has my devotional journal. It has like symbols that are important to her. It has the incense that I like to use for her usually. I try to get her a golden apple. I did not do that this week. It's got like my incense and candles and things that I would use for my devotionals. And it also, of course, it has my devotional journal on it. And my working altar is completely different. My working altar is the altar that I go to when I actually want to do something. So that might be lighting in a candle with intention. It could be dressing a candle. It could be ritual. It could be prayer. I do a lot of stuff. It could be just burning a bay leaf. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but over here inside my like little pot right there, I've got like a McCormick bay leaf, like a bay leaf plastic thing with bay leaves in it, because I haven't had a chance to like change it out into a pretty fancy bottle. But but the thing is, like, it works for me, because if I'm going to be at my altar, I probably right now might be doing some like petition magic or some like prosperity magic. So that's why I've got my bay leaves over there. So by having that over there already, I don't have to go in here and shuffle through all of my herbs or find what I need in this cabinet or whatever. I already have it on my altar. And by putting the things that you need on your altar, it's going to make you want to practice more, simply because you don't have to like shuffle through all the shit to find like what you actually want to use, right? So by making it super accessible for us to practice, anything we can do to make our practice more accessible is better, because that way we'll actually do the practice. Because it's really easy to go, okay, you know what? I wanted to do that burning bay leaf thing, but I don't know, like the bay leaves are all the way in the kitchen, or they're in a bag with all these other bags, or, you know, we kind of talk ourselves out of things. Because we have other things that we can, we have other things that we think kind of take precedence. Oh, okay, I'll do that as soon as I do X, Y, Z. But if you have it super ready to go, like I could just get up right now and go do some petition magic right now because it's already on my altar. Devotionals, does it change from time to time or pretty permanent? You know, that's up to you. My altar stays pretty much the same. I mean, I guess it's my shrine. It's pretty small, so I don't really have a lot of things to do, like places to put stuff. Excuse me. But you can change it if you want to. Some people, like, for example, like I honor, for the most part, Aphrodite Aurania. So my altar is mostly kind of focused on that. But like some people will honor their goddess, like this is the Aphrodite of spring, and then the Aphrodite of autumn, and you know, they might choose a different facet of that goddess or god, but I usually will just say goddess. So because god or goddess is a lot of words, a lot of syllables on a Monday evening. But a lot of people will change it throughout the year. Mine's pretty much the same because my devotionals are usually pretty much the same thing. I might do special things every once in a while. So I might have flowers. I might move stuff around and make space for flowers. You change your tablecloths and it really makes a difference when you switch them. That is true. Just like you might change your tablecloths in your dining room, changing your altar cloth really can change your altar for sure. I have a ridiculous amount of like my husband suggested that I might have a tablecloth problem because I have like seasonal ones that I like to use on the dining room table. But then I also have some other ones that are in my closet that I usually use for altars, or I'll just switch them both. To me, it doesn't matter. I don't need to have separate altar cloths. I mean, some things, for example, this is kind of a more delicate cloth. So I wouldn't use that on the dining room table, but I would totally use the ones for the dining room table on my altar. So it's all about like what you want to put on it. And that comes back to how you're going to use it. Okay. Keep talking if you have any more questions or want to say anything, because this is great. All right. So number one is decide why you want to have an altar. And number two, kind of just use that why to decide what you're going to put on the altar. So, because some people will just put like all the crystals they own or all the candles they own, and that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's altar is going to be different. One type of altar is not better than another type of altar. Again, the most important part of this altar process is that it's functional and that it's going to make you want to use it. So I'm going to use that to spring into the next thing I want to talk about is why does it matter if it's pretty? So we see a lot of pretty altars. If you are on Instagram, there's like an altars hashtag, and there are these super like Insta altars, right? Where they're like beautiful and just like perfect. And is it even an altar? It could be on somebody's floor. I don't know. But there are these like perfect altars. And while that's awesome and amazing, and don't get me wrong, I did buy a little white fur thing because the Instagram gods like made me want to do that, because I feel like that's part of every Insta altar. But the next time I change it out, I'm probably taking that off because it's not functional for me. So yes, if you are, running a business and you need to take pictures of your altar for your business, like that's awesome. I've taken some really cool pictures with my fur thing and like it's winter and things like that. But when it actually comes down to it, this beauty thing that we see on Instagram all the time, a lot of times I look at that and I am like, that's pretty, but what are you doing with it? Like, oh, a pretty crystal grid that you made because you wanted to make a crystal grid, which is fine. But I find if you're going to do something with intention and you're going to like focus something, it's going to be a little bit different than just making things because. So it is one of the good things about it being really pretty and like making you want to, it's because it will make you want to go and work at it and touch the things on it. So when I talk about how like it's important that your altar is beautiful, I don't mean like it needs to be Instagram beautiful. I mean, it needs to be beautiful for you. It needs to be beautiful for like in the way that it is also going to be functional. So when you have these beautiful objects on your altar, it just will draw your eye to it. And again, that's great because it reminds you of your spirituality and your practice, and it reminds you to be mindful of what you're actually doing, and it will make you want to use it. So I want to talk about like what makes an altar aesthetically pleasing. So I know there are a couple of you on because I can see the number. So I want to ask you, what do you think makes an altar aesthetically pleasing? What do you think makes an altar pretty? Because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who has like a Pinterest board with altar inspiration, or I do follow the altars hashtag on Instagram because I love looking at altars. They're always so beautiful, and it's really interesting to me to see what people decide to put on their altars. And I even like the ones that aren't like, I guess, conventionally beautiful, that aren't insta perfect. So like, what do you think makes an altar aesthetically pleasing or aesthetically beautiful? And so think about that for a second. What you think makes something pretty or aesthetically pleasing. I guess I shouldn't say pretty or beautiful because aesthetically pleasing is different. But yeah. So just think about that for a second. And I will tell you one thing that I have found that really makes a difference in regards to making an altar aesthetically pleasing. And that is creating different visual levels for your altar. So when I first started, I just had this like flat altar, right? Because I didn't have any money. I was a teenager. I was broke all the time. I didn't have statuary or anything like that, so my altar was super flat. Figurines are nice. Yes. I love figurines. So I had like my flat pentacle and all my flat little tea lights because, it's hard to, afford a lot of things. I had a couple like little party light tea. I have some actual pictures of my first altars, when you had to go back and get your film developed. I like my rocks and candle things from nature. Awesome. So one thing that I like is the visual, like the different visual levels. So you can see behind me, I've got like one of my big candle holders. When I do Wiccan ritual, I have two. I have one for the goddess and one for the god, which would go over here. So I have these two super tall things, and then I have some things that are mid-level, and then I've got the things on the bottom, and that really helps you. Yes, and things for nature do. Hi, Linda. So these visual levels of your altar, you don't have to go and buy like these like $15 candle holders or whatever and big candle things if that's not your jam. But instead, maybe you'll have like a couple vases with either some flowers or some interesting grasses or some wheat, whatever calls to you. You can, flowers are tall. I really like symmetry. Not everybody's into that, but I'll get like little bundle of flowers at Trader Joe's or whatever, because they're really inexpensive, and cut them and put them in like little tiny vases so that they sit up straight. And that can help with those levels. So I've got like obviously my flat things, I've got my tall things, and I've got my like medium things, whether it's like your cauldron or whatever. A lot of times we have a focal point of our altar. And I mean, it's not exactly like tablescaping, you know, it's not exactly like setting a beautiful table, but it kind of is. It can be. Of course, you don't have to do it like that. There's no rules. The right colors are big for me. I have multiple altars in my house, and all of them have crystal gems, glass rocks. One of them has a statue of a goddess on them. One's a memorial altar and filled with mementos of departed loved ones. Like you, I have more than a few tablecloths. Thanks, Tracy. It's good to know that I'm not alone. And every altar has a cloth on it. Candles are also important to me. Yeah, I do. I also have a couple altars in my house. I've got like my Bridget shrine that is in my kitchen, and it looks kind of like a house. Oh no. I have an Aphrodite shrine that I have in my bedroom also. And it also has like those levels, because you can still like make those levels. But yeah, the right colors like are important. And whatever the right colors are, that's the right colors, like whatever that is to you. So don't feel like you have to like, oh, the wheel of the year says this is green and red and gold, but I don't really like red. Like, then do green and gold, or do blue, or do whatever calls to you. Again, the most important thing is that it calls to you, because it's your altar. I also love candles. I have some like jar candles that I received as Christmas gifts, some awesome Christmas gifts back there. And I have one right here too that I received as a Christmas gift. I got a lot of candles for Christmas gifts, because evidently not Christmas, birthday gifts, because my friends know me. And they know I would love to burn my house down. Just kidding. But you can get tall candles and small candles. So that I really enjoy doing that to make it like more pleasing to my eye. But really, it's just about what is pleasing to your eye. Okay. So when you create your altar, or if you are going to recreate your altar, this is my suggestion to you. And it is a very different energy than other options. So I'm going to clean up my altar, and I'm not just going to be like, what do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? I take everything off of my altar and I put it away. So all I have is like a blank slate. I'll take off my altar cloth. I'll do what I need to do. And then I rebuild it from scratch. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One of those reasons is that it's going to, like, the act of creating an altar is sacred in itself. You can make it sacred. You don't have to. I mean, you can just like, not, but you can put on music that you find sacred. You can kind of get in the state of mind where you feel open to your intuition, and you feel comfortable asking your intuition, what should I place here? What should I place here? What should I even put on my altar? What like resonates with the why that I'm making this altar? So that is a practice that I really like to do. I think that it helps you kind of like that starting over, that fresh, clean thing. It really helps you build a new altar, because the Ivy that I was when I created that altar, a couple months ago, I'll be honest, I haven't completely obliterated and recreated my altar in a couple months, but that Ivy is not the same Ivy that is sitting in this chair right now. Like, we're constantly changing. We constantly are discovering new needs. We're constantly having new experiences. We constantly are evolving in our spirituality. So when we're creating our altar from scratch, that allows us to be who we are in the moment and not try to like change things that 3 months ago Ivy wanted. So also, if you have a lot of things, if you've been around in this witchy world for some time, you might have acquired a lot of things. I have acquired a lot of things. And so it gives you a chance to really start moving those things around and using some of the other objects, sacred objects that you might have, and put them on your altar. And it allows you to maybe like change in some seasonal items if that's your jam. It really allows you to kind of make it like an artistic creation. Like that is your blank canvas and you're creating your artistic vision. And again, you always want to make sure it's going to resonate with your why. Like just because, like, I love my altar. Even right now, it's kind of like a mishmash of things because I'm planning on resetting it. If not this week, then next week, definitely before the beginning of the year, or maybe even on, maybe I'll do that on New Year's Day. I'm not sure, but it definitely needs a reset. But even while it does, it has the candles that I like to burn, and it has my bay leaf, my little ring of bay leaves that I like to burn. It has my incense that I like to burn, so I don't have to go into this giant rack that I pretend isn't a rack because I put curtains on it and find new incense. No, it's right there waiting for me so that I can easily practice my spirituality. So your altar makes your spirituality accessible at all times. And then the last thing I really want to talk about, if you have any questions or you want any suggestions or anything, post them in the comments now. I do want to talk about the last thing is safety, altar safety. Because I feel, and I think we talked about this, like it is a rite of passage for a witch to set something on fire that they did not mean to set on fire. So whether that's a curtain or yourself or your robe, with your giant bell sleeves, if you're a giant bell sleeve robe person, what? It's just asking to get caught on fire, right? So always safety first. Like you can see my altar is against a wall and it's against the window really right now. And there are curtains. Well, I won't light any of my candles, even the ones that are like in the jars, without opening the curtains, if not the window. If your altar is against the wall, you want to make sure you don't have a candle that is like even a jar candle that's right next to the wall. Sometimes those flames can get pretty high, but even not, the smoke from the wick can discolor your wall. So you also want to be careful about that. Make sure that they are not sitting right against the wall. If you have like a glass candle holder, you might want to put it on something that won't catch on fire, heat proof, like a trivet. If you are burning anything in a cauldron or an incense, like a censer, especially if you're burning loose incense and you're dealing with the small charcoal discs, you want to make sure that you have either sand or salt or something in between that disc and your vessel. And you want to make sure you have something between that vessel and your surface, because it can melt your surface. I don't think it's ever caught a surface on fire because of the heat, but I have, plastic tables that we've used as altars and it has completely melted. There's like spots in my table where we like did things and it melted. So just be really careful about that. I always suggest, if you do a lot of candles, especially if you're doing cauldron, like alcohol cauldron fires, always have a fire extinguisher. They're very cheap on Amazon. You can buy, like I've got this one right here. Oh, where are you? I've got this guy right here. I mean, I know this is not the safety video live stream, but it's very important to talk about safety. So it's super easy, super dusty also, because like most of you, I have a cat. But it's really important that you are paying attention to the placement of your things on the altar. Also, if you're going to be doing a working on your altar, like if you're going to be doing a ritual, you have all your stuff, you want to make sure you don't put your candle right in front of you. Many altars say to face north, and they say put the like representations of the elements at each of your cardinal points. So like this might be salt, and and close to you would be fire. If you're facing north, fire would be right in front of you. So whatever you're going to do, you're going to be reaching over that candle. And I don't think that that's a great idea. So I suggest not doing that. Just be really like cognizant of what you're actually going to be doing at your altar, and make sure you're not going to catch yourself on fire, catch anything else on fire. that you're not going to like ruin your tablecloth. If you have candles, if you're using taper candles, you want to, first of all, make sure that they are straight up and down in their holders and that there aren't a lot of drafts, because that's how you get the candles that will burn straight down and will not drip all over the place. If you want that dripping, which turns out that's a thing. Hi, Meg. If you want that dripping, then I suggest that you put your whole taper candle holder on top of something that will catch that wax. If you don't, then you will be spending a lot of time learning how to take wax out of altar cloths, which is not a terrible thing, because at this point I can take wax out of anything, I feel like. So if you ever have a question, I can probably give you some advice and some tips on how to get wax out of altar cloths, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay, Susan, can you give me some more examples of some whys so I can really use them functionally in items that can be used? Sure. So one why would be devotional to a specific goddess or to Mother Nature, to whatever, you know, like whatever you want to be devoted to. Another why would be for specific ritual or ceremony. So for example, if I was going to do a winter solstice ritual, I can create an altar that evokes the themes of the winter solstice, whatever theme I'm choosing, and kind of make that my own and make sure that I have all the things I would need for my ritual. Some people have tarot altars and they just basically use it to do their tarot readings on and their divination. So an altar like that might have a crystal ball and their tarot decks and their runes and like their whatever cloth that they want to use to do their readings on. You could do a meditation altar. Maybe that might have a singing bowl or a chime, maybe even like a place to like put your, I know a lot of us use, let me move my wine glass, sorry. A lot of us use our phones for either guided meditation or things like that. That might have like a little like phone holder thing on it, if that's what you're interested in. Or it could just be like your everyday practice altar. What do you do every day? What practices are you doing every day? Or not even every day, like what practices do you do the most? Like, let's not pretend that everybody has all of this time every day, because we've got kids and Christmas or holiday extravaganza and work and cooking and cleaning and all the things that we have to do. Like, not everybody can do practice every single day of their lives, but what practices do you like to do? And if you don't have like a practice that you're doing right now, what practices would you like to incorporate into your life? So if that's meditation, you'll want to add things that will make meditation more accessible to you on an everyday basis, or things that will make petition magic, like magic, accessible to you on a regular basis, or devotions. The reason that my devotion journal is over there is because like I want to be able to do devotions without having to make it a huge thing where it's going to take a half hour of my time. Yeah, okay, of course, sometimes I do half-hour devotions, but sometimes, like, let's think practically. Like, this group is all about melding the magical and the mundane so that we're creating our magical lives. And I'm not going to have half an hour every day to do a devotional, not right now at least. So I want to make that as accessible and easy for me to practice as possible. So it's mostly about trim your wicks. Heck yeah, right? For some reason, like, the comments don't scroll for me, so I have to scroll them every once in a while. So I'm just a little bit behind the times, I think. But it really is about deciding what you want your spiritual practice to encompass, and then you can utilize your altar to make it more accessible to you on a regular, like, everyday basis. I know a lot of people talk about, oh, my winter solstice altar, and oh, my this altar, and that's amazing. Like, in my coven, we create an altar for each holiday or for the full moon. I mean, it doesn't stay up all the time because we gather when we gather, and we each have our own, like, altars at home as well. But like, so if you do want to do a winter solstice, I almost said summer solstice if you're in Australia, altar, then that could also be a thing. You can incorporate it into your everyday altar, or if you're going to do a ritual, you can create another altar. There is no like amount of altars that are too many. You can have as many altars as you like, you know. So like Tracy said, she's got multiple altars in her house as well. Like they all can evoke different feelings. They all can serve different purposes. My Bridget altar, because I do a lot of like, I cook dinner several times a week, and I come home from work. I don't sit down. I come home from work. I hang up my purse. I might change. Then I'm in the kitchen cooking because my father-in-law goes to sleep early because he gets up early, and I want to make sure that I get food in him early. So sometimes that's really stressful for me. So what I can do is I can light the candle on my Bridget altar, it's a shine, and but they're very similar. And or I might give her an offering and ask her to help me have more love in my heart because I do not want to stir in any like yuckiness into the food that I'm making. So that's one thing. Like I've got an Aphrodite altar in the bedroom. I can light a candle to her if I like. So it's all about what you want your spiritual practice to look like. And then you can back it up and use your altar to make it more accessible on an everyday basis. And again, safety first. Make sure you're not reaching over candles. Don't put candles here. Put the candles like here because you don't want to hurt yourself or burn yourself or like set your hair on fire. And I feel like every witch I know, and I feel like I know a lot of witches at this point, has I lit myself on fire or I lit my something on fire. I have several of those. So always safety first. So I think that's it for tonight. I just wanted to I really feel like altars are such an amazing tool, not just to have and look pretty, which is true. But it's a tool that allows you to make the choice to have your spirituality more accessible to you. So that's it for tonight. I will talk to you later. I think next week we're doing kitchen witchery for the winter season, something like that. And that's it. So I hope you all have a lovely solstice, and I will see you guys later. Bye.